Good morning. I am calling the April 11th City of Findlay City Planning Commission meeting to order. To begin, we'll start with roll call.
Mayor Mirren.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Tremblay.
Here.
Ms. Schroeder.
Here.
And Mr. Klinger.
Here.
At this time, anyone that plans to speak for or against an item, if you could please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
All right. Do you affirm that all the testimony and evidence you're about to give in a case before this commission this day will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and will conform to the facts of the case and the rules of this commission? This you affirm under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please say I do.
Very good. You may be seated. We have the March 14th, 2024 City Planning Commission meeting minutes. Were there any changes that needed to be made from circulation? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. The item for Seifert Farms is tabled until June. I don't believe that that is being removed today. Very good. So moving on to new items. Item number 1, application for conditional use CU-02-2024 filed by Brick and Cedar LLC to establish a duplex at 224 George Street. CPC staff comments.
So this request is located on the north side of George Street, near the intersection with Cedar Avenue. This parcel is located in a neighborhood of R3 small lot residential. This location is not located within a 100-year floodplain. And the City of Findlay land use plan designates the area as single-family small lot. Parcel history: this parcel is currently vacant, having previously been attached to 226 George Street, just to the east. Staff analysis: the applicant has requested to construct a duplex on the vacant parcel. This neighborhood has an abundance of duplexes and triplexes, so staff didn't have any concerns about the fit with the surrounding area. The applicant is proposing kind of a wide driveway entrance that leads to a parking area that can accommodate the required 4 parking spaces for a duplex. There would be a 2-story duplex on site, which would be able to meet the setbacks for the R3 district. Elevations of the proposed structure were included with the application. Staff does not approve of the house being pushed to the rear of the property with the parking in the front, though. Compared to the surrounding neighborhood, the building line is out of place, and all the duplexes in the area have parking in the rear. So staff would recommend shifting the house to the front of the site with a narrower driveway leading to parking in the rear. So our staff recommendation was CPC staff recommends approval of application for conditional use CU-02-2024 filed by Brick and Cedar LLC to establish a duplex at 224 George Street with the following condition: place the house in the front of the site with parking in the rear.
Very good. There's no comment from engineering. Doesn't appear anything from fire prevention. So recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of the application for conditional use CU-02-2024 filed by Brick and Cedar LLC to establish a duplex at 224 George Street with the following condition: place the house in the front of the site with parking in the rear. If the applicant could come forward and speak on this project. If you could please introduce yourself as well and make sure that the red light is glowing on your microphone.
All right, I'm TJ White, one of the members of the Brick and Cedar LLC. So our parking lot in the front, our concern is most of the other duplexes in this area all are owned by multiple parcels, right? So they share driveways and are able to get back there. So we are essentially landlocked between 2 previous existing structures. So they these 2 structures pretty much already encroach on our lot lines. Like the eaves of the house extend over on the east side. On the west side, there's a porch essentially that goes up to the upper unit that extends just about over our lot line. So our concern is pushing the building all to one side would leave 3 foot, less than 3 foot between an elevated porch and our building to allow a driveway. And then the driveway going back to the back because of the other building would be very narrow. I have a couple other pictures of to show an example of what it would look like, I guess, if that would help. With I don't. These are new pictures that I've got since. So I mean, for example, this is another house on George Street that has similar spacing. I don't know. So that's what the driveway would look like between the two houses going back. Really, it's not good if you had a moving van or a truck to drive back there. We'd be paving pretty much the whole lot from lot to lot and down the front. I know there's 4 other properties, 2 on George Street and 2 on Garfield, that have similar setbacks to this already in place. So that's kind of why we're looking to keep all the parking in the front.
Sure. So first I want to say, these infill projects in the city are a huge benefit. There's already utilities. They're a great asset to the city. So I want to thank you for bringing forward projects like this. A new structure like this in the neighborhood is a great improvement. From a staff perspective, we were just concerned, this is set back about 20 or 30 feet further behind kind of the established front setback. So we're just aesthetically, the house, our thought was the house doesn't really fit into the neighborhood. It's set way back compared to most of the houses. Now this drawing, it shows 8.7 feet.
Yeah, from the lot line to the
And
house.
the required setback is 3 feet.
Mhm.
So, and we do see, I'd say the majority of homes in the downtown, in the core older part of the city, do have driveways that go through the side. So I'm not understanding. You talked about eaves and some porches and stuff. Are
Those are the existing buildings that are there that are already encroaching
okay.
on that. Yeah.
So if you were to move the house over to that 3-foot setback, how wide would that driveway be?
If we moved it over to the 3-foot setback, essentially you could have about 11 feet if we paved there's a sidewalk on this other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that eave of that where that entrance is, the door on the right side, the sidewalk. So if we would have to pave right up to their area. So be probably 11 foot wide, giving a 3-foot sidewalk for them it's already paved.
So I think one of the questions I have, and I am not an engineer, and I always give that disclaimer, so I'm sure there's probably an engineering reason why, but I think I understand what you're saying, and I would prefer it be in the back, but unless somebody has a genius idea, I don't think it's going to work. I think you've kind of looked at that. But it appears that we have a significant amount of concrete and setback from the sidewalk before you even get to the parking spaces. I guess, are we able to decrease the overall amount of concrete that we have,
So
pushing the property back so that we could move it forward some and maybe have a smaller approach and not as much depth?
I mean, we could move it forward some, and you could move it forward more, and I think you could talk about it, but to get a car to get in and out without having to back into the street, which is, I think it's on your code, you need to have that extra space to essentially to be able to back out and turn in the driveway. So you could tighten that up, but you wouldn't be able to you'd have to back out in the street to turn around.
Okay. Our code says you can't pull out of a driveway backwards. that's kind of like how driveways typically work.
Um,
Or you're just saying they have, like,
Bec-
because
becau-
they're not pulling out of the parking spot directly into the road, they have that backup space over the sidewalk into the right of way before they'd be pulling out into the road.
I mean, I do agree with the applicant, and I just confirmed with Jeremy, that he doesn't see a lot of room that we could consolidate because of the maneuverability that's needed for the cars. The 4-foot concrete walk is maybe where you could consolidate a little bit, but that's actually,
You could consolidate on like the entryway, move
Yeah,
it forward
but
to
that-
the sidewalk.
in some ways, I mean, that aesthetically looks weird to have your bumpers a couple feet from the house.
Yeah.
It's kind of double-edged sword because, I mean, to eliminate some of those movements for vehicles, you know, I was kind of thinking, well, back straight out. I know maybe our code doesn't say that, but like you said,
I think it's in the when you get to this.
right. But most people's not going to do that. You know, you could widen out that drive, but you're going to make your driveway entrance wider. And then, I mean, so I would rather have it choked down a little bit. And, you know, you're going to add more concrete one way or another on that.
So likewise, even if we push it to the back and move the building forward, you still have around the same amount of concrete because now you have no availability to back out. It'll actually probably
Right.
be more. And then all the way to the back of the lot from the front of the lot would also be the same. So that whole lot would almost be covered for the most part.
Yeah, because personally, I would much rather see it moved forward. You have more grass space. You have the house moved forward. You have grass in the back. And if you look, 3 houses to the west, they have a 2-car parking, but it's immediately into the sidewalk, and you just decrease the setback from the roadway as well as setback or overall concrete in the front. I would almost rather see a variance to not have them have to turn on the driveway on the property because I think it's more disruptive to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what the part of the code you're
Maybe
referring to.
maybe it's the multifamily. I thought was looking up that you couldn't have, because like if we could park in the street, you could, or pull out in the street, you wouldn't need to have a driveway hardly at all. You could just
Yeah.
come straight in and then back out. But I think for like a multi-unit or
I think
for
you're
this.
so the code I believe reads as that the parking has to be contained within the property. I don't think it necessarily
you have to have-
specifically states.
You have to provide, for a duplex, you have to provide 4 off-street parking spaces.
Correct, and I
Right.
agree with that, because
Yeah.
I think that would be problematic, but the thought of them having to be able to turn around, like most houses, you're not gonna be able to do that. So it sounds like we're kind of, unless my genius engineer and architect friends, I would almost say I'd rather see a variance than,
If we
All the
put the
concrete.
parking in the rear, what would be the setback to the property line to the parking? 5 feet?
there.
Parking in the rear, there's no setback.
Okay, okay. So you can go right up to the property line, which I guess the other adjoining properties have done.
yeah, because unless he's able to get a right-of-way easement and shared parking access from those other properties, which I don't think makes sense,
Right.
there's not really a good way to get to the back of the property.
How wide is that building?
The
20.
duplex 26.
26 feet? And the property line is
3.
43? and you've got a 3-foot side yard required. Are you saying that the other properties are encroaching on your property line?
Yes, both of them on either side. So if you,
Is that from an official survey?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you go back to the other, based on what was staked out, the other picture of the lot, so. Yeah, it keeps rolling down. So on the right, essentially the eaves of that little, that right there is all essentially on the property. So there's a sidewalk that goes on side, so that building is built essentially right on the property line. There's a stake in the front picture there that shows that. So if you run a string, we're essentially right there, and they have outlets and the gas meters on that side. On the east side, which would be the left side of the picture, the property line, there's a stake right there, essentially goes back to where you can, and yep, straight back. So the overhang on the upper deck portion of that essentially encroaches onto the property also.
Are you talking like a foot or?
Yeah, it's about probably a foot and a half.
What would you need for a driveway there? 10-foot driveway minimum?
Typically, it's 9 feet.
9? You said?
Typically, they're 9.
So you get about
Yeah,
3.5 feet
my
on each side.
Yeah, my concern is having that tight of a driveway, and if you're already over the property line by a foot, you've got a 10-foot drive with maneuverability getting into the back, that's gonna be tight. So I understand the predicament, I just would like to see you try to move the building closer to the street.
Yes, Engineer Cat.
How many parking spots would you like to see?
Well,
It
I mean, we would probably have, because if with the duplex, if you're focused on college kids, you're going to have probably a person per room, right? So typically you would assume that each one would have a vehicle. So
Okay. And the reason I was asking, because I know, our requirement is 4, but if you're thinking 3 would fit that, you're eliminating 1 parking spot, you can choke that down, you can kind of move around, you can make that driveway a little bit wider, say make it a 30-foot wide, and then it's you're cutting down on that, but if that's going to disrupt your clientele, I'm trying to think of alternate ideas here.
Yeah, and then you're eliminating 2 parking spaces on the street too.
Right. So it's kind of double-edged sword on that one too.
Was there anyone else here to speak on this item? If you could come forward and please introduce yourself. Okay, but if you want to speak, you have to go on the record, so I'll need you to come up and introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Roxanne Schaaf. I live at 217 George Street, and I came to voice my concerns about this project. It was about 10 or 15 years ago, the same thing tried to go through, except they were proposing a triplex. And it didn't get approved. It's a very narrow spot, and it's right beside the railroad tracks. And there's going to be a lot of traffic from the people that live there, and if they have to back out or whatever, cars get backed up waiting for the trains, and that's just a bad area for that. And like you said, it's going to lose at least 2 parking spots. And George Street, you can only park on one side of the street, and there's a lot of college kids. There's 2-bedroom houses that have 6 people living there, and they all have cars. And they'll only have 2 cars in their driveway. So is this going to be a 2-unit, 2-bedroom? Is that what it is? Okay. So there could be more than 4 people living there. parking is very limited on George Street. And I know because I struggle with it. I have to use street parking. And it's a big problem. This is a very small, tight space. I can't imagine squeezing that in there, especially with the overhangs he mentioned. And the parking could not be in the back because, as he mentioned, the bigger vehicles could not get back there. It's a very tight space. And if you have parking in front, it looks like it could lose 3 street parking spaces, which are important.
Very good, thank you. So this is a residential lot, though.
I know.
So you're just wanting to see single family there?
Well, it's not very big. I mean, I guess they could put a small house there.
Yeah, because it's 106 feet deep, which gives you pretty good, you do have good square feet. It's just long and narrow, which is the challenging part.
Well, my back lot is bigger than this whole lot. So it's a very small lot. But I just wanted to voice my concern.
Yeah, appreciate it, thank you.
And
Was-
there's other people here.
Yep. You guys hide from me over there, so if you just come on up and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning. My name's Jane Cook. I live at 214 George, which is 4 houses down. We have college kids on both sides of my residence. We've lived there for 53 years. Parking has always been an issue. When we first moved there, it was a nice residential neighborhood. People on the other side of the street that don't have garages, they use the on-street parking. When college changed to university, it seemed like the neighbors all moved out and everybody rented their houses out. So that became an issue. The kids that live there, they each have a car. The kids that come to visit, stay all night, they have a car. Parties, they all come, they have a car. They park in the yards. We also have a church that's across the street on the corner next to the tracks on Cedar. There is an issue with that. Their parking lot is very small. They have a lot of events that they do, and when they do, they use the on-street parking also. So some of the residents, the people that have been there a long time, their families, mom and dad each have a car. Sometimes kids come home, there's parking on the street. So like I say, I think parking is our biggest issue, and I didn't realize until today how far back this was gonna sit. Like it is not aesthetically conducive to our neighborhood. I object to having anything in that little tiny small space due to the parking. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Was there anyone else over there that wanted to speak for or against this item? Okay.
I guess another question for you. When you were looking at the building design, you've got it 26 by 42. It seems like the issue when why you put parking in front is having the driveway would be too narrow to get to the back. What else did you look at to make the house maybe a few feet narrower to give you the extra space needed to get the parking in the back?
Yeah, I think we can go down another foot or so, a couple feet, to get to the minimum square footage requirement. So it's still, our feeling is going back and forth in there. I know if you don't provide the parking up front for us, if it's a struggle for somebody to back in and out, they're gonna park on the street, is what I would say.
So you think you'd be able to adjust the size of the building to fit the parking in the back?
I mean, it's still gonna be a narrow area. It's gonna give you a couple more feet. It's
Sure,
not gonna provide
but you'd be
a
13
wider-
feet instead of 11 feet, which,
Right,
hey, when you're driving a car back there, there's a couple feet make a big difference.
sure.
Just for information, this lot is the same size as, they're all 40,
They're all the same.
They're
they're all
43, yeah.
43.71.
Oh, are they? I assume there was a house on this lot at some time. How long ago has that been? Anyone know?
Boy, that's a tough one on the fly.
So it's been a vacant lot for a lot of years then.
Yeah.
So it was part of this property. This property, it was part of this property, and it was split. But my belief is, because it's the exact same size, is that it was two separate lots. Maybe the house burnt down, this lot absorbed it, and then it's been split off again. That would be my guess of the history.
Yeah.
And you just used the legal description from the original lot, right?
Yes.
When you did that? Yeah.
I know there's a little bit of encroachment, but I keep looking at the numbers, and I feel like, so 8.71, let's roughly say, and 3 is the setback. So let's say we can only get 4 feet, and then we have 8.71 here, and the parking lot, the driveway doesn't have a setback, so that's, let's say we can only get 7 out of that. That's 11 feet. So 9 feet is 2 feet of
Right.
buffer, and then a narrower house is another 2 feet.
Right. You're at a pretty
Um,
wide, not wide, but more normal driveway.
Yeah. You know, I understand your concerns. I'm not 100% convinced that the side driveway rear parking can't work. Over the last 10 years, we've seen it work on some pretty narrow lots in town. And you make a compelling case, and I do see the encroachments are an issue. But I still have, like, can we tune it to make it work?
Also, I think moving the house forward and getting the parking behind there would help maintain the residential nature of the neighborhood.
Yep.
It looks a little more commercial with the parking all out front.
And it'd save an extra parking spot in the street too.
I agree. And hearing the other residents on George, their concerns, having the parking out back will drive people literally to the back versus trying to attempt to figure it out on the front. So I think that makes sense if we can make that work.
Plus, then if you have visitors, you then have the driveway space off-road to also park vehicles in. So you gain stacking off the road.
And there's no denying the parking in the rear is not as comfortable as a commercial parking lot. You have to be a little maneuvering, a little finagling, but I think it does work. So,
Yeah, I'd like to see him present a new plan for us to review with the building move forward and show us how the parking lot works in the back too.
I mean, I think this is a needed development. It's a lot that's been empty for a while. The renderings you put together make it look very attractive. I mean, this is, to my mind, a good project and a right spot for it. Just some tweaks in the parking, I think, make it fit better with the neighborhood.
Okay, I will motion to approve application 1 for conditional use CU-02-2024 filed by Brick and Cedar LLC to establish a duplex at 224 George Street with a condition that parking be accommodated in the back of the property and that he work with engineering to determine a flow for that.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Other discussion? All right, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Barron,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Trombley,
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder,
Aye.
Mr. Klinger.
Aye.
Moving to item number 2, application for conditional use CU-03-2024 filed by Elizabeth Urschwender to establish a home occupation at 220 Prentice Avenue for a nail salon. CPC staff comments.
Pardon me. All right, so this request is located on the north side of Prentice Avenue near the intersection with Geffs Avenue. This parcel is located in a neighborhood that's zoned R3 small lot residential. This location is not located within a 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the area as single-family medium lot. Parcel history, this house was built in 1950, and its last remodel was in 1992. So the applicant has indicated that they would like to operate a nail salon as a home occupation on site. The applicant's been living in the home since June of 2023 and has been operating a nail salon business for the past 4 years and wished to convert one of the bedroom spaces in the home into a salon space. The services provided would be considered dry by the state of Ohio, meaning that there would be no chemicals used on hair. There would be manicures using gel polish, and she offers hair braiding services as well. And she is licensed through the State of Ohio Board of Cosmetology to perform these services. In the application, she indicated that she'd like to use a rear door to have the clients access the salon space. The zoning code, however, has a restriction on the entrance saying there shall not be any additional or separate exterior entrances to the dwelling unit specifically used for the purpose of conducting business or to accommodate the home occupation. So the applicant must utilize the main door for the business. The applicant also noted that there can be 2 cars in the driveway, one for the resident and one for the client. She added that she would only take clients one at a time and could schedule a way to set a 15-minute gap between customers to avoid overlap. Given the size of the driveway, staff did have concerns that the driveway may not be sufficient to provide functional parking. If parking became a concern, though, the city may require additional parking provided off-street. Staff would just also add that conditional use permits are revocable if there are any issues with the use in the future. So CPC staff recommends approval of application for conditional use CU-03-2024 filed by Elizabeth Ernschwender to establish a home occupation at 220 Prentice Avenue for a nail salon as a home business with the following condition: to utilize the front door as the business entrance.
Engineering,
No comment.
fire prevention.
We just want to make sure they get the proper permits.
Very good. So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of the application for conditional use CU-03-2024 filed by Elizabeth Erschwinder to establish a home occupation at 220 Prentice Avenue for a nail salon with the following condition: utilize the front door for the business entrance. Is the applicant here to speak on this item? If you could please come forward and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your project.
I'm Elizabeth Ernschwender. I go by Liz. I've been doing nails for, like he said, 4 years. We recently bought a house in June, July, and the space allowed for me to possibly have my business back there, which is bigger than the space I'm in now. I booth rent now. And I've just always wanted to have a private studio at home. So that's why I applied. I don't have any questions for you if you have questions for me.
So can you talk me through a little bit, I always want people to be able to utilize their properties the best of their abilities, but this is a residential
Right,
neighborhood, so we
right.
don't want it to be disruptive. Can you
Right.
talk a little bit about how your business flows and
Right.
to make sure that it's
Yeah.
not going to be?
So I do nails, so I can literally only have one person at a time. I don't do hair services where you can overlap services, processing times. So I just have one person, and mainly there's really no one waiting ever. I never have anyone waiting for me. I usually run ahead of schedule. So, and I put in the note that my scheduling system, you can book however far out, timing wise, to have a gap if parking is an issue.
What are the hours? Is 9 to 6? Is that?
Yeah, typically it just varies what works with my clients, because I just do this, so I don't like to work past 6, but some people need evening appointments, so it just depends on my client's needs.
If you open this up, is this something that the cosmetology or the nail have? Do they do an inspection of the facility?
Yes, correct. Yes. I applied through you guys first because since you and state board like don't really talk, I figured I should get the city approval first, and then like I said in my application, then I'll apply through the state board, and then they have to come out within 30 days and inspect, and then they have to approve it before I can start working in there. And I can send you guys a copy if you request that of that residential license.
So you don't do anything but nails other than braiding hair is all?
Yes, under the braiding, I lock hair too. Under the license in cosmetology, locking hair is under the braiding license, and I have a boutique braiding license through the state of Ohio too. So I hold 3 different licenses under the Board of Cosmetology.
Does that allow you to do hair for?
No,
like
I can't
normal?
chemically process the hair.
Okay. What about chemicals for your nails? Are there?
I
chemicals?
use like non-toxic gel polish. I don't do acrylic or anything like that. There's no fumes of any sort.
So you wouldn't need any special ventilation or anything
No.
in that space.
No.
It's not like the nail salons you walk past and you get
Correct. I
fumigated.
do not use those products.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be you. There's no other
Correct.
receptionist,
Just,
any other.
it's a
you.
private studio of
Private
my own.
studio.
I'm the
Okay.
only person working in it.
So one thing I always like to remind folks with conditional use permits is that if we do start to experience problems, they can be revoked at any time. So you are making an investment and we recognize that, but if we start to have disruptions, then it can be revoked. Okay?
And we are currently working through that process with a conditional use in West Park. Is that as a potential issue? So
Yeah.
it's something that the city can utilize if we start getting a lot of complaints that like, hey, there's 3 cars parked out here all the time. It's super busy. The key with home occupation is your neighbors should not realize there's a home occupation. So no signage is permitted. It should feel and look and act like a regular house on the street.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion
Oh,
to.
one quick second.
Oh, sorry.
Was there anyone else here that wanted to speak for or against this item? Okay,
Now I can go.
now you may go.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the conditional use with the condition that they utilize the front door for the business entrance.
I'll second that.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second for conditional use CU-03-2024 filed by Elizabeth Erschwinder to establish a home occupation at 220 Prentice Avenue for a nail salon with the condition that the front door is utilized as the business entrance.
Mrs. Mayor, can I say something? I'm sorry. So under state board rules, there has to be a separate entrance for the salon use. So that's why I was having them go in the back.
Okay.
So that's state board guidelines.
Is it an existing door?
Yes.
But you have no access to it currently.
I put in my letter when weather permits, we're going to get a sidewalk done to go back there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And there's already a pre-existing gate there. We're just going to refurbish that gate, and then it goes, I don't know if you can zoom in, but it goes, there's like a cement pad right back there, and then you just turn around, and then the door to go in the space is right there. I also have this. It's like more of a,
So, Eric, can
So
you?
other conditional uses that we've done in the past for dog groomers, salons. We never forced them to go through the front entrance. They always had a side entrance or a rear entrance.
Well,
So
it-
something to consider.
Yeah.
I guess it's an existing door. I didn't want to see the
No.
house modified and
No.
added a separate
No.
door. Just
it's an
specifically for
existing,
this.
it's basically a sunroom kind
Okay.
of that's been there.
Yeah, and so based the language in the code, there shall not be any additional or separate exterior
Yeah.
entrances into the
Right.
dwelling unit specifically used for the purpose of conducting business or to accommodate home occupation. But it is an existing door.
Yes,
that
I
can
just wanted
still
to be clear with you
Yeah.
guys that
No.
state
Appreciate that.
board
Thank you.
directs me that I must use a separate entrance that doesn't go through the living quarters. And this
Personally,
goes
for
directly
your,
into
I would not want somebody
Yeah.
walking through my house
yeah,
all
so
the
this goes
time.
directly into the salon space.
Okay.
Alright.
All right, would you like to modify
I would. Yes.
your
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve the conditional use.
Very good.
I'll second it. Again.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so that would remove the condition of utilizing the front door, and we would just let the record reflect that there should be no new doors added to accommodate the
Yeah.
business. Very good. All right, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Trombley?
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
Mayor Murin?
Aye.
Good luck.
Very good, yeah. All right, moving on to item number 3, application for conditional use CU-04-2024 filed by Kendra Brunswick to establish a hair salon at 412 East Edgar Street. CPC staff comments.
So the request is located on the north side of East Edgar Street, just east of the intersection with Park Street. This parcel is zoned O1 Office Institution. To the north, it is zoned R3 Small Lot Residential. To the south and east, it is zoned PO Parks and Open Space. To the west, it's zoned R2 Medium Lot Residential. This location is not located within a 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the area as single-family small lot. The building is currently vacant. It most recently served as a daycare facility. This parcel will be split from the house, which is located at 2125 Park Street. Yeah, map. Staff analysis: the applicant has indicated that they would like to operate a hair salon in the building. She has been a stylist in Findlay for 18 years, and she thought that the space would work for a hair salon studio and would not be impactful on the residential nature of the surrounding neighborhood. Given the location, staff did not have concerns about the business being a detriment to the neighboring properties. The office standard for parking would be 1 spot for 300 square feet of building, which would mean they would need 6 spaces for the space. The applicant submitted a drawing for a parking plan for the site that would accommodate more than 8 cars with the parking pad there. The applicant indicated that they would do wall signage for the business, and staff would just remind the applicant that any signage would need to be worked out with the City of Findlay zoning department, Eric Atkinson behind me there. So staff recommendation: CPC staff recommends approval of application for conditional use CU-04-2024 filed by Kendra Brunswick to establish a hair salon at 412 East Edgar Street.
Engineering,
No comment.
fire prevention.
Want to make sure they get the proper permits.
Very good. So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of the application for conditional use CU-04-2024 filed by Kendra Brunswick to establish a hair salon at 412 East Edgar Street, which is Edgar Avenue, right? I was like, wait a second, where's that at? Come on up, Kendra. If you could tell us introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the project, please.
Hi, my name is Kendra Brunswick, and I am a Findlay resident my entire life, born and raised. I've been doing hair for 18 years. I was in a salon that is considered like you work for, you're an employee. So there's 2 different branches within cosmetology, and 2 years ago I went booth rent. I love it. So I'm looking to establish my own booth rent in my own space that I can continue to provide the same services to my clients. And that's why I was looking for a building that would be freestanding, would have ample parking. And I felt like this was a great opportunity for that. So to build more small business in our community as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, I think when I looked at this building, I think it would be a good repurpose of it. It obviously does have the parking. It's kind of in the residential area, but this isn't an invasive business, but it is also then obviously next to the park. So it gives plenty of space. So I didn't really see any concerns with the proposal.
So, could you discuss like how many stylists what's the maximum number of stylists that you would
The
have in
maximum number
building?
that could be considered would be 4, considering the square footage of the building and wanting to have everyone be booth rent, everyone essentially has their own space so that they're not encroaching on each other within the square footage of the building inside. So essentially for when I'm doing a service, it's a minimum of a 30-minute service, upwards of 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on what the service is. So each stylist would need at least one parking spot per time that would be utilized, I guess. So that's kind of what you're asking, right? As far as traffic flow, I don't see it being heavy traffic because it's not like quick overturn of people within the establishment. I mean, it's meant to be an experience, and that's what we're trying to provide along with quality service.
What do you anticipate your hours of operation to be?
So my hours of operation are typically Tuesday through Saturday. We try to not work on Sundays and Mondays, along with other salons in Findlay. That is typical. I do, however, provide services accommodating my clientele and what they need. So typically 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. would be the latest, out by 8 p.m. That's kind of standard within the industry. So that would be... They are by appointment, though, so I don't set exact hours, but that would be the encompassing time frame.
The building currently to the west, is that vacant?
They've both been vacant since 2020, so they were both daycares. I know that they are splitting the two parcels, and they are trying to sell both parcels. Under my understanding, they were trying to rezone the other building to be residential. I don't know exactly what they are doing currently with that. So,
I have discussed that with the realtor, and I believe they are going to be applying for a rezone once they figure out who they're selling to.
Having as many as 4 stylists there, you could have, and the code requires you to have 6 parking spaces, but you could have a requirement for probably up to 10 to 12 parking spaces, I would guess. And it may fit on the lot, but I have trouble seeing how those parking spots fit there, and if you have the right clearances. You probably got angled parking, and you pull in, back out along the east side of the building. West side of the building, I'm not sure it's deep enough to do that. I'd like, well, I guess we don't need to see it, but I'd want you to present a parking plan to the zoning department showing the striping layout of how that parking is to flow.
And it looks like there would be access to the back of the property for
correct. I
employee
could add
parking.
Additional parking if necessary to accommodate all of that because there is ample lottage behind the property that is included in my lot.
Yeah. It's a little hard to maneuver back in there. I've pulled back in there myself, but obviously your employees could maybe park there during the day or something. But
correct.
Still, I think that parking plan needs to be presented.
Okay, and typically I don't foresee any, like if I were to have that that amount of stylists or people within the building, I don't foresee them all working at the exact same time. We like our space and we like to have our clients enjoy that experience. So I don't see the need for 10 to 12 spots. I mean, I think 8 would be ample considering our hours would all adjust around each other. We could accommodate that to not have to add additional parking.
Are you planning on keeping the ramp in the back?
Yes. So the Ohio State Board of Cosmetology requires me to have wheelchair accessibility as a new business. So I loved that feature. So we will be resealing the driveway. I have quotes in for that, as well as we will be fixing both of the ramps and both of the entrances and just updating those and making them up to code.
Was there anyone else here to speak for or against this item? Okay. I will motion to approve, excuse me, conditional use CU-04-2024 filed by Kendra Brunswick to establish a hair salon at 412 East Edgar Avenue with the condition that she provide a parking plan to the engineering department.
Second.
Very good. No, you're good. I was just going to, as you heard before, this is a conditional use, so if it starts to be really disruptive to the neighborhood, then the permit can be pulled. But we would communicate to you if we were starting to have issues and try to work through those, okay?
Okay.
Jacob, whenever you're ready.
I still second.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had your second, Jackie.
All right. Mr. Trombley.
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mr. Klinger.
Aye.
Mayor Murin.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
All right, very good. Moving on to item number 4, application for site plan review SP-07-2024 filed by Mark Bassett for a new storage building at 2311 Bank Street. CPC staff comments.
All right. This request is on the east side of Bank Street, between Edgar Avenue, and Oakland Avenue. The parcel is zoned I-1 light industrial. There is a residential house zoned R1 large lot residential just to the north of this site. To the east, it is zoned I-1 light industrial. To the west, it is zoned PO Parks and Open Space. It is not located within a 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay land use plan designates the property as industrial. The parcel history of the site is currently a storage building for the applicant, Mark Bassett. Mr. Bassett stated previously he does general fabrication, mostly for race cars on site. Staff analysis, a little bit of history too. The applicant is requesting to construct a second storage building for his business. In April 2018, the garage was expanded with a review of CPC. The applicant also went to the Findlay Board of Zoning Appeals in February regarding the front yard setback. They were given relief from the 50-foot setback to reduce it to 25. In the BZA minute, the applicant noted that they are in the process of purchasing a 60 feet of property to the south from Hancor to combine with this lot. Then they would split this new building from the existing garage. Staff would recommend that the building be shifted 10 feet to the south to avoid creating an issue with the side yard setback post-split. And if they were to split the lots with the current configuration, there would only be 50 feet of separation between the buildings, which wouldn't allow for each to meet the 30-foot side yard setback for the I-1 district. Elevations submitted show a fairly basic-looking storage building. Regarding architectural standards, entrances for pedestrians must utilize 2 of the following. They can roofing with a overhang in proportion to the entry, or change in roof pitch using a separate dormer style pronunciation. 2, vertical articulation, and 3, horizontal articulation. Staff also noted that there's a single tone for the siding material, so staff would just recommend a 2-tone color combination to allow for horizontal articulation. Staff recommendation, CPC staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review SP-07-2024 filed by Mark Bassett for a new storage building at 2311 Bank Street with the following conditions: adding an architectural feature to the doorway, add horizontal articulation to the building, and contingent upon that acquisition of the 60-foot strip from the neighboring parcel. Dan did submit me the deed for the lot split, so we probably can just cross that out from the record. Oh, and lastly, shift the building 10 feet south to meet that side yard setback.
Very good, thank you. Engineering?
So in the drive access, normally we like to minimize the drive cuts as much as possible, but I think with this type of operation, it'd be actually more detrimental to the roadway to try to get trucks and trailers to move around. So with that being said, I'm good with what they have there. There's not much traffic going through there anyways. It's really just whoever is living on that roadway anyhow. No concerns with the project. Really, the only thing I would like to see also is on that water service, if we could maybe shoot that out of the side of the building so that way we can get the meter pit out of the concrete pad. But otherwise, they're showing detention to accommodate that building. They have that on the south side there. Otherwise, just make sure we have the permits before you start.
Fire prevention?
No comment.
So the staff recommends approval of application for site plan review SP-07-2024 filed by Mark Bassett for a new storage building at 2311 Bank Street with the following conditions: add an architectural feature to the doorway, add horizontal articulation, and shift the building 10 feet south to meet the side yard setback. Discussion.
Yeah, basically, as Jake stated, we did provide the deed on the split, so we knew that was coming in. Water service, not an issue. we really like to talk about is they are putting a canopy over the door that was omitted on the initial drawings. The biggest concern that we have is the moving the building 10 foot to the south. I know during the BZA conversations, there was discussion of possibly splitting the property. After further discussion with the development team, they are not going to split this off. And so they would like to keep it where it is. And if we start pushing that further south, we're going to get into, you can see where they've kind of cleared these trees. That ground is unsuitable for building. They'd have to over excavate and put deeper foundations and stuff in. So that's one of the reasons why we kept the building positioned where it was. So, you know, we would like to keep it where it is. And again, you know, they do realize that if they do split it, they could have to go through and do variances and stuff like that for the setbacks. But again, the intent right now is not to split it. I know at BZA they weren't sure exactly how they were going to do that. And then we would work with the administration on the articulation, or color changes, all that fancy
Gotta make it
architectural
pretty,
stuff.
Dan.
It's
Gotta
in the
make it
code.
pretty.
It's required by the code.
I don't even know how to spell articulation, but that's beside the point. But again, you know, I think everything is pretty straightforward. Again, we'll work with the administration on exactly what's required on the building and take care of it through them.
Very good.
So is this going to be operating a business out of here, or this is all personal, all storage for personal use? Okay. No outdoor lighting or anything like that?
I mean, it'll probably have, I have a security light now in the little island basically in front of my shop.
Okay.
So we'll probably have something similar.
But no
to that.
freestanding poles or anything like that, just wall packs and stuff on
like that one, the pole for the electric, it'll be on that pole. Just that's how it is now. It's on the, yeah,
on
so
here.
you can
Okay.
see the security light on there. It'll have something similar to that at least.
Yeah, I think our concern with that is just making sure
It's
again that
pretty
it's
dark down there.
it's
It's about
contained.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Make sure it's not shining into the neighbors or something.
The good thing is there are no neighbors.
Yeah,
And you know, thinking to the future, with the current zoning, you know, we've got is it Oakwood? That's not Oakwood. It's
Blue Rock.
Blue Rock. It's
Nature preserve.
the nature preserve here, and then the site is surrounded by industrial. So I don't envision, you know, a new subdivision going up next
Right.
week and then it's a conflict. So
Nah, because ADS still owns the ground to the south of me, and they're just using it for R&D, so.
Was there anyone else here to speak for or against this item?
Nah, I think this.
Mark's already speaking for
Hey, you
them.
gotta let people speak.
Dan, on your little detention area, where
Yeah.
does that drain? Is that draining to an open ditch or something?
Yeah,
just to the
it's
back?
all an open. It's a low area. It's open ditch that goes to the railroad and keeps going
Okay.
south. I think it ultimately makes to Eagle Creek.
Mayor, when you made the conditions, I didn't hear you say contingent upon the acquisition of the 60-foot.
That the deed has been
yeah,
received, so
that's
that's
already
already been
happened.
met.
That's already happened.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. They closed on that probably 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all taken care of.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve application for site plan review SP-07-2024 filed by Mark Bassett for a new storage building at 2311 Bank Street with the conditions of add an architectural feature to the doorway, which appears was already addressed, add horizontal articulation, and the shifting of the 10 build is no longer applicable, so that will also be removed. So it will just be add architectural feature as well as the articulation. Jacob, whenever you are ready.
All right. Ms. Schroeder,
Aye.
Mr. Klinger,
Aye.
Mayor Marin,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Trombley.
Aye,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, moving on to item number 5, application for site plan review SP-08-2024 filed by Michigan Sugar Company for a new gravel site laydown yard at 1343 Greenwood Street. CPC staff comments.
So this request is located between Greenwood Street and Lima Avenue. The parcel is zoned I-1 light industrial, and the neighborhood to the south is zoned R3 small lot residential. It is not located within a 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay land use plan designates the property as industrial. So this site is currently vacant. It has gone through a lot split, so this outline will be the new parcel boundary once it hits the auditor site. So staff analysis, the applicant has submitted a site plan for a 230,000 square foot gravel drop yard. This drop yard would be for the use of Kent Power, who is a contractor of AEP. This site would store equipment, including pickups, bucket trucks, digger derricks, truck-mounted cranes, backhoes, tooling, and Conex storage boxes. It would also store materials, including steel poles, wire reels, insulators, and other miscellaneous material. Kent Power is working with AEP to do replacement within a 50-mile radius of Findlay. So they were looking at this site as kind of their central hub. They do show on the site plan that they have a landscaping mound and buffer between the residential properties to the south and the site. They provided 51 evergreen trees, 51 canopy trees, and 102 shrubs, which would meet the level 3 screening option 2. Staff would recommend using level 3 screening option 3 due to the conflicting nature between the industrial and the abutting residential, which would mean they would just need to increase the shrubs from 102 to 204. For outdoor storage, the code does allow for the yard to be a permeable surface in the I-1 district as long as it is enclosed. They plan to utilize some of the existing fencing on site, but would be installing a 6-foot high chain link fence and a vehicle gate to enclose the site. They did note on the site plan that there is a potential future pole barn. Staff would remind the applicant that they would just need to submit the plans and get proper permits in the future. So staff recommends approval of application for site plan review SP-08-2024 filed by Michigan Sugar Company for a new gravel site laydown yard at 1343 Greenwood Street with the following condition. Increase the number of shrubs to 204.
Engineering.
So access off that site, that is an existing drive that was installed as part of the 75 project. So that's really made for access kind of back in that area as shown. So that is paved up to roughly where the red line is showing. But they'll be coming off that drive that is kind of then going back towards the west. The water service will be extending off to that proposed building. We'll just need to know what size that's going to be. So that way we can have that on our permit process. On the sanitary, for what you had for the sewer lateral, that is going out into the ODOT LPA or limited access right away. So we would have to, I would like to see that in either more of the property or within our right of way. If that goes out into that LA right of way, then you're going to have to get permits through ODOT for them to have approval. So I would push that out as much as possible. But even if you're getting any, you'll still probably have to get a permit for that. The stormwater management, we received a letter for that saying that this is still going to be impervious area, but right now this is all grass, and with you add in compacted 304 stone, that's going to change the runoff coefficient for that. So I'd like to work with the consultant to ensure that we are not causing any additional flooding within that area, because your curve number should be changing with that, unless that's all hard pavement, or not hard pavement, like compacted stone underneath. It looks like I went out there, it looks like it's all grass. So just need to verify that, because if the curve numbers are going to change, then we'll have to have detention for the site. And then I have a misprint on the MS4 requirements as a copy paste there on my fault. They due to the site size, that will have to comply with our SWIP for that. So really what I would need, if the site goes forward, I just want to make sure that the stormwater management is correct going forwards, and then also that the sanitary, that is getting relocated out of the LA right away.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
Very good. So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of application for site plan review SP-08-2024 filed by Michigan Sugar Company for a new gravel site laydown yard at 1343 Greenwood Street with the following condition: increase the number of shrubs to 204. Jeremy, though, it appears based off of your comments that we should add in that their storm water detention be addressed with engineering.
Yeah.
Okay, so discussion. If you could please introduce yourself.
I'm Eric Trout with Peterman Associates, and our plan was to, if this got approved, then we would obviously work with engineering for the SWIP, the stormwater runoff, and utility locations.
Eric, do you know what their time frame is on this? Is this a temporary type thing, like 5 years, 10 years?
Right now, they're locked in for 10 years, but they're hoping to go to 15. I think there's somebody here from Kent.
If you could please come down and introduce yourself.
Good morning, Alan Weinandy with Kent Power. Currently, we have a 10-year contract with AEP, and like he said, it's 50-mile radius. It actually is bigger than that, but when we looked at all the projects we have plotted through that time, Findlay was a real good spot, and this property in particular because it's right there with the access to the interstate, so we can go any direction and get to the projects. So currently, it's until 2033 is our contract with AEP for the projects we have. It could go longer if we can get it extended.
Are you purchasing the property or leasing it, or?
Yeah, I was told that we actually already signed and closed on the property. So Findlay Properties purchased it, and Kent Power will be leasing it off of Findlay Properties.
Okay, so only issue that I kind of thought about is that if something ever happens back there where the sugar facility is, if they start trucking anything in more, then do they have to?
So in the agreement, we have to allow access for them on that existing gravel drive.
Oh,
and
good.
That's why we're leaving that just like it is, and then bringing a new drive off of that drive into a new. There is existing fencing, but we're going to put a new fence in between that drive, that shaded area, to allow them to have the trucking access.
Okay, good.
And
Thank
you'll
you.
maintain that gravel on your property up to that point.
Yep.
So I might need some help interpreting these plans from the engineers or architects. I really appreciate the screening and mounding along the residential. Do we have the ability, based on right-of-way and easements along when you come off of the interstates and the roundabout along the right side of this, or it'd be the south side along Lima Avenue, for some shrubbery when it comes to aesthetics? Yeah, that would help. Sorry. Like along here, you want to drag that down a little further? Sorry. But kind of along here, like, hey, welcome to Findlay, and be a little more aesthetically appealing. We have great landscaping in the roundabout, and just to kind of distract from it. So
I don't believe you can go right of that red line. If anything, it'd have to go to the left.
yeah, sorry. This area, wherever it is on the property line, like this is on the inside, but I would, if we could do something here, that would, instead of just a chain link fence or even outside of it, that would be attractive, I would think.
That's a good point. The staff was very concentrated on the residential and did not think of the access there. So, yeah, planning commission, you have the authority to put conditions upon that. So
You were recommending additional screening, additional shrubs on that mound. Does it have to go on that mound, or can some of that go on the right side?
if you indulge me, I'd like to do a street view to see what we got.
While he's searching for that,
Am I in the wrong?
the
there
new
we go.
fencing, is that going to be around that shaded area only, not the property line?
Matt, go up to
Okay.
the highway.
There is existing fencing there around the property. There is some chain link fencing there that's existing. We plan to leave that, and quite honestly, that might be ODOT's.
So that fencing that's right there, that's ODOT's pretty much right away line.
Yeah.
So we would put that new chain link fence just inside of the existing driveway. It's kind of hard to see there from the street view, but we would fence in inside that. I don't think the existing fence is 6 foot. I think it's a 4-foot fence.
Okay, but the fencing would be, right around this. Okay.
On the southern side, the northern side, this here is just that's the shaded area is
It looks about 6 foot.
gravel.
Right.
So fencing would actually be up
Oh, okay.
around the entire property to the north of the drive.
Yeah.
Should be. Unless they did them half foot.
I think your guys' goal is always to make me motion sick at these meetings.
Are you planning on having any type of outdoor lighting to illuminate the lot, or this is
That's
just going to
something
be?
we never discussed, and during the last item, I was like, hey, we're probably gonna have to have some kind of lighting, so yeah, we would have some. We do have a modular office space that we're in the plans as well, so there would probably be something on that structure, and I would think probably something similar to the last gentleman that was up here.
Okay. And the difference between the last gentleman and you guys is you're abutting residential neighborhoods, so I'd like engineering to see a
Yeah, we
an
would
approve
need
a
a
lighting plan.
photometric sheet from
Yeah,
there.
exactly, photometric.
Of the site.
And what are you doing to control dust? I mean, it's gravel, it's probably compacted stone. There will be some dust from heavy machinery. What are you doing to help control that to lessen the impact to the people that live near?
I would say a water truck and water it during dry periods. I mean, I don't know what else you could do with the gravel to.
But it is part of your plan to have that and to keep that watered down during dry times to make sure you're not.
Correct.
Okay. And then hours of operation, when are people coming and going?
So generally, we're Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Our job sites, we're roughly 7 to 5, so I would say maybe 6:30 to 6 would be the times that we keep having people come in and out of here, just depending on where the job sites are.
Sure.
And obviously, occasionally we get called off on storm situations, so there is weekend potential as well, but that's kind of rare. I don't like working weekends anymore.
I don't blame you.
You'll be working multiple projects at the same time, I assume, so you'll have trucks in and out quite frequently?
Yeah, not all the trucks would be coming from all those projects. They wouldn't all be coming back.
Right.
To this. We do have some right here in Findlay for AEP. The day-to-day traffic would be the projects here in Findlay, and then the few folks that would be stationed out of this mobile office, myself being one, to manage this yard and the projects that are managed out of that yard.
So I want to just make sure I'm reading. So the mounding on the south side against the residential properties. So that's a 6-foot mound with then
Yeah.
trees
5 to 6 foot.
and then trees and brush on top of those. So that's providing a pretty significant barrier. I would note that, well, I guess shrubs on top of the mound would be helpful. I always prefer trees, but I guess that does provide a little bit more visual barrier.
Jake and I were having a side discussion, and I think, so I just want to talk about screening. So we have different levels of screening, and within the levels, there's levels.
Yeah.
And when it's industrial next to residential, it's our highest level, our most intense. And then they were proposing level 2, which I appreciate, but we kind of want to go level 3. When you put new landscaping in, it looks great on the drawing, and then when you get out there, you're like, oh, this is
Takes some time to develop.
It takes time. To that point, we would definitely like to discuss swapping out, I think, some of the bushes for trees. I think those might be more effective, particularly arborvitae or evergreen. And then I do think it's a really good point, looking at the view from, the roundabout here. It's equal elevation.
Right.
You're going to have a perfect view of it. So I do think we need to address this here. And then we just keep bringing up points on this one. I'm sorry, but do we know? I guess my concern is this mounding. Mounding's great, but it also is a water barrier. And I was just a little concerned. I don't know if we need a break or two in the mound. If water flows, I don't know if we need a break or two in the mound. If water flows this way, I'm not sure which way the water flows. What I don't want to do is kind of back up water and have that water potentially ponding. It'd be on your property, but then I don't want it to go into the residential properties. So
That's a good point.
So I like the mounding. I think I'd like to work with you to swap out bushes. I don't think we need too many bushes. I think we need more trees and arborvitae and things like that. And it won't be a 1-to-1. You know, we can, I think probably a ratio that we've kind of worked with in the past is kind of swapping out 3 bushes for 1 tree.
Because right now, yeah, the mound is 5 foot above existing grade, and we have 51 evergreen and 51 canopy, and then 102 shrubs.
Yeah. Now you've done a good job, and the other, I keep thinking of another project where the mounding hasn't quite satisfied everyone. The good thing is here the elevation is level. The issue where we have is the houses are a little higher than the property, and the mounding falls a little short. I think in this case we won't have that issue quite as much. What are your thoughts? I know this is all on the fly. What are your thoughts on this elevation here? Is it
So I guess looking at our different standards for landscaping along different perimeters, you know, I would say that just having a variety of trees along there, I just think just so you have some visual barrier, some greenery, that also helps with dust. But I would say then with the addition of on top of the mounding, one, if you have any breaks, you're probably going to want to do some concentrations of greenery to help with water absorption.
and I don't know if breaks are needed. I think engineering will have to discuss the
Yeah.
flow of water and how that works.
Are you thinking of just having them put a swale on the south side of the berm to collect any water coming off of the
Yeah, and then having a break
mound,
to
and
let
then
it go
coming back
through.
to the west?
Something along those lines. And I'll defer to
Sure. Yeah.
Jeremy on that. He knows better how water works than us
Yeah.
planners.
Usually goes
but-
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not really concerned about any, you know, berm along the industrial.
So you're thinking more just
I think
landscaping?
just landscaping.
On the right-hand side.
Yeah, it's a highway.
Right.
You know, I think making it some visual barrier, but unless movement of the dirt will help with water flow away from the residential
Yeah.
areas. Obviously, if that's the case, then I'm all for it, but I don't think that it's necessarily needed from an aesthetic standpoint.
And we submitted a grading plan, but we'll relook over it and, you know, with engineering, so.
Yeah. Yep, I was just about to ask if there was anybody else, because I know we've got a number of folks, but 1 second, because these folks were here first and they were sworn in, and I do not believe you were sworn in because you came in late. So if these folks can stand up, if there, anyone wanted to speak for or against this item, if you could just come up and introduce yourself and then share any comments. Yeah, all the way into the microphone, sir, because you're being recorded.
Jim Wiley, here live in West Park, here representing West Park Watch, neighbors, people who just started conversation recently because of core drilling, the topo site, and everybody knew something was going on. There was no communication, so some of my questions have been answered already, and some are just been discussions and been ongoing in the last couple of weeks. And I don't think this is anti or pro or nothing. This is conversation that's come up, and people like to get information on record of what's going on here, you know, from previous experiences. Change of use, we discussed, they're going to let the tanker trucks, what have you, that go back and forth through here. They continue to go through there the way it's been discussed. So there's been concern about dumping more traffic back out on traffic on Logan Avenue. Everybody assuring that's not going to happen. Heavy traffic's going to stay out there on a road that's going to have water applied in the summertime when it's dusty and blowing around. I understand that was another concern, but that gets into the provisional documents for this development, does it? Watering, controlling dust, this all part of the provisional acceptance of this, or is it just conversation? How does this work? Because people are going to ask.
Yep, so we're still in the conversation point. When we go to make a motion, we'll have specific conditions.
Okay.
Now typically we don't add the necessarily specifics of they must have a water truck there during dry operations. I think the things that we look at are making sure that there are barriers as much as possible between the residential and commercial operations, because trying to enforce, hey, watering, that's very difficult to do, right? Because people's definitions of dry are different, and somebody can mow the yard and create dust and impact their neighbors. So we're still in the conversational standpoint. You said a couple of different things. People have the right to drive on public streets. Do I believe that there's going to be a significant flow of truck traffic onto Logan? No, because of the way that they're going to be circulating through their property. And then most of the time their access is back to I-75. So it wouldn't make sense for them to go onto Logan and then try to circulate back through the residential neighborhood. But again, they're public streets, so people can drive on them. I think those were the only things I caught so far.
And then I wanted to, sometimes neighbors feel surprised about something happening. We sent out notices about 15 days after we received the documents. So they may have been doing core samples, last fall. We have no knowledge of that.
Okay.
So I want to ensure the public that, today is Planning Commission submittal day for next month. We have no idea what will be submitted. The most life-changing project in Findlay could arrive upstairs, and here we go. But so that's I just wanted to kind of outline the nature of the process. We don't always know what's coming in.
Well, that's what you would know. If it was in your backyard, you would notice. That's
Sure, no,
and I know-
you notice
conversation,
things,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we're not there to see everything.
I understand.
That's
I
going on.
And I
understand.
know some of the folks in the neighborhood, I think Robin had reached out to me and said, hey, what's going on? And I said, I don't know, that's private property. They don't have to inform us of what they're doing unless they're going to go to Planning Commission, So that's just how the process works.
So it doesn't, the information isn't out there ahead of time very much then. is what
Not
you're saying.
necessarily, right? People, you could be looking at doing a project and thinking on something and doing core samples, and then it doesn't work and it never comes to us.
So, yeah, I just wanted to let the public know that, they get notified about 20 days after we receive a project. So it's not that we've been working with projects for a long time, and, it's often just, here we go, very quickly. So, but go ahead with your comments.
All right. Let's see. I know you had some drawings. Does those drawings have profiles and kind of how this mound is going to work? Because there's already concerned about the neighbors and water and whatever. To put their mind at ease, they had something that could visually be shown to them that said, hey, this is what's going to be, and
We don't have profiles, we have a grading plan.
grading, something that can be illustrated. So we've decided on a type level 3, some with a typical, hey, this is the mound, it's 5 foot high, and it's got a bush or a tree, 4 foot, 6 foot, 10 foot, some kind of, you talk all day long, but people understand visuals, something we have a neighborhood meeting coming up. I'd like to put all this stuff and just tell people this is what's going on. I think everybody would be happy, but.
Sir, here is the grading plan. You could, we don't require like physical renderings of what would be required, but
Well, that's why so I say typical.
but you know, we could provide what was submitted to us, and you could, you know, it shows the change in elevation, the mound. will
Right,
be-
if you had a set of plan and a scale and say, hey, this mound's gonna be X feet off your property line, 5 feet tall, give them some idea. So it's very irregular territory back there, and with a topo, I presume, is on here. You can say, okay, it's this level, and my backyard is 2 foot lower. I know I'm gonna have water laying there. Something that people can understand and look at.
Yeah, these are public documents, and we can provide those to you.
Okay, that's just trying to.
And we'll make sure to also provide you the notes from today's meeting, and this is on our website as well. So this whole recording will be on the website so
Okay.
that you can point folks to this so they're aware of the conversation as well.
Okay, I think lighting. Gentlemen sound like they will have some kind of lighting back there. Somewhere on the documents I was reading quickly while I was sitting back there, and there's some notation. I presume it's an error that this property is in the county. Is that a error in the
Yeah,
document?
that was just a copy. paste
Yeah, that's
there.
what I stated. Copy and paste there on
Oh,
that. So I had a
okay,
correction on that.
Okay. Last but not least, and I don't know if this is true or not, ever since I've been around the neighborhood, the long-time residents say this property is contaminated. Is anybody could put that to bed, and that's just an urban legend that doesn't mean anything? Or anybody ever heard about that property being
There have
contaminated?
been, I believe, at least a phase 1 environmental assessment. And what a phase 1 is, they call it a kind of a desktop review, in which they look through and they dig up. They're pretty amazing. They dig up some pretty incredible, like, oh, there was a tank here in 1946, and so there are. My understanding is there are some minor environmental issues. Like there still might be a tank buried. The phase 1, the phase 1 didn't indicate like this was a massively contaminated area, or else the EPA would have required things. So my understanding there are some minor issues there.
So some hydraulic or oil, or there's spillage back there someplace.
Yeah. So, but for an industrial use of just a lay down yard, I don't think they would be required to do anything. If they were developing residential, they'd have to look into that further.
Oh, makes sense. I just
Yeah.
I
No,
keep hearing it
all
and
good
know that
questions.
but never from anybody official, I guess.
There's lots of properties where people think that, you know, that
I think you got them all covered.
radiation or whatever.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no
Jim,
problem.
just for one thing, we're talking about this screening along here, and just as a guide, you know, the option 2, which you may modify a little bit, or may go to option 3 on that screening. Just option 2 has 5 canopy trees and 5 evergreens and 10 shrubs, 10 evergreen shrubs per every 100 lineal feet. So that's the kind of the density of the landscaping.
And I think we're looking to, my goal is to increase that a little bit.
Right.
And that is shown on the plans that we'll send
It'll
you.
be on the plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think kind of our goal is remove some of the shrubs and install more arborvitae,
Right.
more evergreens to provide a more instantaneous screening.
More density. And it appears, there's a lot of numbers on these things. It looks like from the property line, so the back property lines of the residential area to the laydown area is 175 feet. So there's significant distance between where the property will be, so that you'll have a couple of feet, the berm, the roadway, additional space, so about 175 feet between where the laydown area and the residential back property lines are located. So it's definitely a significant buffer.
Yeah, and then give people a visual then so they can,
Yep.
oh, that's no problem, you know.
No, I get it.
Sir, what's the best way to get you some of this information?
Um,
Can we email it to you?
email it, so we can go down to Strikers and have them.
We can. I'd be happy to make some copies.
Okay.
So, what if you have time? Stick around after the meeting, and we can coordinate that.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Was there other folks that wanted to speak for or against this item? Did you still want to ask some questions, sir? Okay, if you could come down, introduce yourself, and then I will have to have you be sworn in real quick since
Okay.
you weren't here at the beginning.
I'm Paul Honstein. I live in the neighborhood.
Okay, Jacob?
Okay. Do you affirm that all the testimony and evidence you're about to give in a case before this commission this day will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and will conform to the facts of the case and the rules of this commission? This you affirm under pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Thank
you. Can we go back to the other view? Okay. Well, let me start with first and foremost. This property right here is one of the most important properties in Findlay. It is at the heart of 75 and 15. I mean, these are the people that run through our city every day. And it's got so much traffic that I don't believe that that's the best use of this land. Now, on the construction part, you tearing it apart, the dirts are gonna go all across this way. If not, it's going across the residential. It's gonna be a mess of digging dirt, putting stone. It's gonna be a huge mess. And to say it's not, it's gonna be a huge mess. Like, so, I mean, I don't think that's the best use of this land. And I probably have more to say, but I didn't write it down. But now, this is the only property you guys are talking about, right? You're not talking about the other property over here?
Correct.
Okay. So my opinion for Findlay, for this property and the one over there we're not talking about today, should be, I think it should be a go-kart track. I think it should be a go-kart track. And then I think over here should be a little kids go-kart track, or it should be restaurants. I mean, something that's gonna say this is the city of Findlay. But if it was go-kart tracks, it would bring Millstream back. You know how many people in this city don't drive? Because there's nowhere to teach them to drive, and they're scared to get on the streets. So like, I got friends, their kids don't drive, and other people don't drive, like my dad's wife don't drive. There's so many people that don't drive in this city, and we have no transportation at all. We got taxis. We got Ubers. We don't have none of that. So like, I don't know. That's just my opinions. I really don't have a problem with AEP putting a property there. I mean, I don't, but who's gonna stop the kids from their cars going in there and just doing burnouts and burnouts and burnouts? I mean, it could be more of a headache, but I know AP probably gonna do a good job. I mean, I'm not gonna say they won't, because they usually take care of their properties, but I mean, is there gonna be fencing so that people can't get back there? And if you're gonna draw a berm on this side, you gotta do it all the way around so that dust ain't going everywhere else. Because if it's not going that way, it's coming my way. I live this way, so.
Where do you live?
I live down farther that way.
Oh, down
about 6 houses.
Okay.
Maybe 10.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. So I appreciate your passion for wanting there to be activities. Obviously, this is privately owned property that they've sold for a specific purpose. And though having something like that would be interesting, I think that would also be more disruptive to the neighborhood to the south. There is going to be fencing as well as a security gate to eliminate people going into the yard. Obviously, lay down yards have a lot of equipment that they're going to want to protect. So I don't see that as an issue. I think we are going to discuss some additional, landscaping barriers, et cetera. But there is a pretty significant, their property or the properties next to them. So they don't have as many requirements to screen against their own properties.
So you're saying that like the city can't buy this off those people and then split it into sections?
The city has lots of things they can do, but a lot of things we choose not to do, and that's
Wow.
not necessarily something we're interested in doing.
Well, I recommend that they do something like this with this property because there's a lot of businesses you could put there. I mean, this is the heart of Findlay right here. You're going past, and just to make it a gravel site for APs, it's not a bad thing, but it's not a great thing.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I wish it was an office building or, something that would be prominent.
Well,
But
they got that giant golf course thing that they. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could put there. I don't know what's the right thing to say to put there, but
I agree with you. I mean, there's a balance between property rights.
Yeah.
The person owns it and the zoning allows it, and so that's as a city we don't get to say you can't do this because we don't like it for no specific reason. That decision's already been made with the zoning and stuff. So, it at least, so that's in terms of grander things, we don't have the authority to say you have to do a grander thing that would be a great entrance to the city.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts, and we'll definitely work through the screening and berm. Yeah, because I guess they don't own any of the property farther to the west. Because this property was just sold off, so there's not really the ability to force a berm along the residential area to the west. Correct?
Well, so this is zoned light industrial,
Mm-hmm.
and this is zoned light industrial.
Mm-hmm.
So
But that's owned by two different people now.
correct.
Yeah.
So the code says light industrial to light industrial is not required to have screening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, though, if we could work with them, I think that it is a good point. Maybe we can do, again, some landscaping buffer on the corner of the property. So, again, it can just kind of help contain dust towards that area. Yes, Eric, you look like you have something to say.
Our code does say that. However, this is a conditional use, so you can put the conditions of whatever you want on it.
Use?
It's a site plan review.
For
Site plan
the
review.
well, it's conditional use too for his outdoor storage. I do have a couple things from the zoning perspective that me and Jeremy were talking about. So coming off the city right away, we do have a part in our code that says any driveway has to be paved coming off ingress egress. And I know they proposed to do a gravel drive at that point, so that technically should be paved.
Just the portion coming off.
Well, if they're using that as truck traffic still, being that it's a new site, that whole stretch should be paved.
Okay.
The other thing is we had a conditional use with outdoor storage for MetroNet, and they did a little bit nicer fence than a chain link. And I do have some questions about chain link. Was there plans for barbed wire or anything on the top of it for the industrial use? Because that's come up in the past recently with R&L carriers.
Quite honestly, I can't answer that question. I don't know if you guys had anything on the fencing provisions. The only thing we have currently is these drawings that
Okay.
were provided to you guys,
So we can work on that. I mean, that can be part of the condition. And then the other thing was parking. Are you planning on parking any employees or trucks at the site prior to going to other sites, getting the material, leaving?
yeah, there would probably be some personal vehicle parking within that dark grade or dark shaded area.
So that piece we should have paved. It's outside of the outdoor storage. So I don't. That number could be determined either by the size of the building or if you have a size of number of employee staff. So coming off the pavement, the paved driveway, that parking section paved, but then the outdoor storage could be a tighter gravel.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd agree on the fence. I think a more solid fence or a solid fence would be preferred. I mean, normally we don't allow chain links inside and rear yards, and it's hard to say what's the side and the rear yard on this. I'd prefer a solid fence to help with that screening, help control some of the dust.
Yeah.
You're saying like if I had to guess, we would probably follow similar to what some of the construction practices we do, which is chain link with the 3 strands of barbed wire above that, would probably be first what come to mind. But are you saying like the chain link with the slats down it, or?
No, I don't even think, we don't allow
So-
slats in the code. Yeah, slats are prohibited in chain link fences, so vinyl, wood,
Gotcha. Okay,
something like that.
That's why I guess
Yep.
you said solid. That's
Now, the other thing that Metronet has done, they've done more of an aluminum fence where it's more like, gaps between aluminum, and then they put a black sheeting behind it to add some more screening. Being that you're industrial, you can go up to 10 feet in height, so they give a nice barrier too, especially if it's solid, to where the neighbors may not get all the dust that may come off the gravel in the hot seasons,
Yep.
but also protect your equipment and their view to the site, on top of the landscaping requirements that are there.
My only concern with that is that a 6-foot fence is not gonna give you really much screening. I mean, you're talking trucks that are probably 12 foot tall with buckets and stuff on it,
Right, and that's where you can put that condition. It has to be 10 foot or 8 foot or whatever you see, because it is a conditional use for the outdoor storage.
With the mounding and the landscape screening on the south, do you still have to put a solid fence along the south side as well?
The requirements for outdoor storage is that complete site. If you want to have it gravel, if you want to have a pavement, that's another story. You don't have to. But if you're using gravel as a laydown area, that whole entire area has to be fenced in.
Yeah, and I definitely prefer the higher fence, and typically we do not want to see barbed wire. I don't think that that's the aesthetic we're going for.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, we prefer not. And I would say, I, again, would prefer, the higher, nicer aluminum, or, in an ideal world, it's brick all around it. But I know we have worked with people as well to do, again, the landscaping barriers in a thicker method, so that if you do have the chain link, at least you have that more visual barrier. All right, so right now we have increased the number of shrubs to 204, but I think we might modify that to work with HRPC to determine landscaping screening plan.
Yeah, I think swapping out some of the shrubs for trees will be beneficial, and as a baseline, kind of 3 to 1, and we can kind of look at that. So we'll look at that on the south side and the east side, and then also there'll be some discussion about potentially the west side, but there's not really too much space there, but maybe some
Yeah.
arborvitaes could be.
Yeah, so I think we need to figure out what we want to see for the fencing is the big thing still from the group. Yep, I see you, Robin. I'll get you in a minute.
My preference is for a solid fence. I don't want to dictate aluminum versus brick versus wood versus vinyl. That's the decision you guys can make and what's best, but just something more solid than a chain link fence.
Are you just saying on the south side?
No, I think this needs
Just along here?
This entire thing.
around the entire thing.
Ooh. It's a lot of
And
fence.
you're saying the zoning is around anything that's the gravel?
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
being utilized as outdoor storage is the main requirement. If he wants it around, that's his right to, as a city planning commission member. But it's just whatever is going to be used as outdoor storage is the perimeter. Now the landscaping can go up on the
No, I'm not
northwest
talking red
corner.
line. I'm talking just the
The
where
lay down
storage
area.
is.
Yeah, he's talking about a lay down.
Have some barrier to keep people from getting out, or in.
Yeah.
And it's just the aesthetics of it.
I agree.
Okay.
But open to discussion if you guys feel differently or feel it only needs to be on 1 or 2 or 3 sides, or.
Okay. Well, the
That's a
commission
lot
is.
of fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
get it.
I like the fact that we're going to require a little more green landscaping than, and maybe would be a little more lax on the fencing myself.
Yeah.
That's what I was actually gonna suggest. We install a lot of chain link fence. I didn't see your guys' preference, but like the colored, the vinyl coated chain link fence, like a black chain link fence or something, and then the landscaping, I think would look better than just a traditional chain link fence, right? So.
Yeah.
That's something we can handle outside of this. I mean, we can review it and see if it fits. I would hope you guys trust us enough to do so.
Actually,
I'd be good with that.
I don't love that because then it's Matt and Eric saying you have to put a solid fence up. I mean that's a difference of could be a difference of $50,000 or $100,000. You know,
Yeah.
that's a. I feel comfortable working with the landscaping, and landscaping can be expensive, but I would like the board to decide if we have a solid or a chain link fence personally.
Yeah.
But we will accept the challenge if needed.
No, what I was talking about was if you say solid, well, we can help dictate wood or vinyl, or if it's open, we can dictate aluminum or chain link. How do you guys feel?
I guess I feel that we're doing a pretty good job here, and that if it was a vinyl coated chain link fence, I would be okay with that versus a wood fence or vinyl fence, which sometimes can be more maintenance requirement to keep it straight, keep it fixed, replace broken boards, that sort of thing.
I would agree with you. I love vinyl fencing, but I don't know if that fits here, knowing what the purpose is. I like the idea of the chain link that you just described, the color, the black, and then enhance the landscaping to support that. I think that fits here, and it'll also maintain that security that has been brought up by a few people.
Yeah, I think one of my concerns would be, and one of the things I'm dealing with is, it may make sense to have the full solid fencing on the south side and then the chain link on the other sides. Now, that also could look not great, which is what I'm trying to process through in my head. But I think that, like, if you did it all vinyl or all wood, because of the amount of it, it would catch your eye and be, like, overwhelming, rather than where a chain link fence with landscaping buffer is going to blend and, kind of blend in better than be like, holy heck, why is there this huge fence around this area as you're coming off the roadway? So I want to make sure, like, okay, first is just, the appearance for protecting the residential properties, then the safety and security of the property, and then the aesthetics. So while I am processing that, Robin, you want to come up real quick and speak with the group? If you could please.
Just two more things
Yes.
from some of the comments that were made. So we identified this property a year and a half ago, and
Can you come up a little closer to the mic
Sorry.
just for the recording, please?
It's just taken a long time through the purchasing of that and all the background and some of the studies so that's kind of to answer some of your concerns. That's, there has been some trucks out there. You've probably seen some activity, and it's just been kind of do we want to make this investment in this property and go forward with it? And it was on the open market, to the other gentleman's point. A developer, that's not our business. We're not we're a construction company, so developers could have certainly purchased this property and done something different with it. So just want to address some of those comments that were made.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Yeah, there has been activities there, because I did ask at the council meeting, because we'd seen them doing soil things and that. And I was always told, because of the diesel fuel from the railroad tracks to the machinery there and all the trucks from the sugar beets, that was inhabitable, that it was always going to be a green space. We are in favor of stone versus gravel, or we are in favor of gravel versus putting any kind of permanent concrete down, because it will help with our green space. Very glad you said about the paving of that road, because my husband touched on that about, having someone to control that dirt. Well, let's just get rid of the gravel and put it paved in there. We like that. My other thing was that we're installing water and sewer there. Since we're worried about our green space in West Park and our flooding, if we're putting new water and sewers, can we not install a storm thing around there to absorb it. We're already digging. Is that a possibility? Can we add a storm sewer for them people there? The mayor says that anyone can use our public streets. Well, Logan Avenue is fine, but Logan Avenue is a no truck route. So that is one of the things. We have right now a build going on Logan Avenue from Habitat. We have the excavator there who has several people have asked, please stay off our street, because he comes down Logan Avenue, hits Moracle, flies over to Lima Avenue to head out of town. Where it's so stupid, he could go straight up Logan Avenue, get right on Lima Avenue, and avoid our neighborhood, avoid dragging all the mud through there. They are public streets, but they are no truck route streets. So making sure that that exit there off I-75 is very important. I will say this, AEP had something there like 5 or 10 years ago. They were very respectful to our neighborhood. I know this is eventually going to be developed, and this is pretty good. If we have to have something in our neighborhood, at least it's not creating more flooding in our neighborhood. We do have stone, and I think they're working hard to try to make it that. But what I'm saying is so that the neighbors behind the barrier are not flooded. If we're already digging for water and sewer to put new storms there, can we not put a storm sewer in there if they're putting sanitary and water back there?
So that's part of that's pretty loud. That's part of the stormwater detention. They have to, I can't say, hey, you're putting so many feet of pipe within your site. They have to maintain what's on their site and make sure what the pre and post construction is not increasing any kind of flow into the existing area. So what the pre-construction is right now, they're post-construction. So say they paved that whole thing. They have to make sure that what the runoff is going on, that however they control it, if they put in storm sewer from their, detention pond or whatever they need to do, is there's not an increase. So you should not see a difference between a green space to a hard pavement, because they have to contain it and then slowly let it go back out at a metered rate. So that will be part of that's what one of my comments was, working with them to ensure that when they put this compacted stone in there, that it's not going to create a more of a impervious area where you would see a faster runoff. So they'd have to, if it does, then they got to contain that to make sure it's metered out at a slow rate.
Okay, well, he probably knew that. I didn't know that. It just said water and sanitary.
Yeah, no, and I just wanted to explain a little bit farther on what that.
The dust was one thing, so when you said that they have to pave it to be a driveway, I think that's great. And like I said, AEP was very respectful before.
Very good. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
I got one more question.
All right, come on down.
Are they stoning the whole thing, or is it like half of it? Because like our residential neighborhood, we're only allowed to like build on half, so we can't build on all of our grass. So are they building on all the grass?
They're stoning just this dark shaded area.
Oh, okay, that won't be so bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where, with the residential, I'm kind of talking about detention ponds and all that kind of stuff. When we have big sites like this, that's where we require them to have some kind of detention system or something to capture water, and kind of the 50% with the residential, because I'm not going to require you to dig a detention pond for a shop behind your house type thing. But that's kind of where it works out on the system. So that's where we'll work with them. It is a large stone area, but make sure there is no negative impact to people down through there.
I just wanted to make sure there was still going to be some green left there. So
Right,
it wasn't
right.
all stone.
Yes, Eric.
So, not to keep on beating on a dead horse, is that the right statement?
We never know what you're saying.
So with the fencing, so back to the most recent one that we had was MetroNet. Now you guys had discussion back and forth or whatever about style. Now with MetroNet, they did have to install 2 different types of fencing because of the setback requirements. We don't allow chain link fences in any front yard regardless. So trying to figure out what the front yard of this is going to take a little bit of action, but I think from the the diamond, it would be the front setback. So I think it's 50 feet in the I-1 district. So that would have to be non-chain link. So anything outside of that can be chain link or the rubber vinyl coated
So you're
chain
saying
link.
Eric's front yard is here.
Yes.
Also, a little clarification. What did you say needed to be paved? Just from the property line to the entrance to the stone area?
If they're going to be using that for the truck traffic, that gravel stretch of road should be, because it is a new site.
Okay, but you're not saying we have to pave back to the west property line?
Yes.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh.
Talking about this?
Yeah.
Yes, because that's going to still be used for truck traffic.
Is that currently used for truck traffic though?
No clue. Doesn't matter. New use for the property. So anything coming off that street right there would have to be going into our right of way that's improved, has to be paved.
But your intent is to have trucks come on here, enter the site. There's no exit point over here. It's all entrance and exit right here, right?
Correct.
So, Eric, you're saying that this area would need to be all paved.
That is,
but
yes.
Not
No, that
necessarily.
as well, because the Pioneer Sugar Company is using it as a truck route still.
Yeah, that existing drive, I haven't seen the final property transfer and the
Right.
verbiage, but my understanding is we had to provide them a right of way to still use that existing
Okay.
drive to access their property. And I
That-
don't think they have intent to use it on a on a daily basis, but my understanding is there's a period where they have a few trucks a day or something that they might need to run through.
That easement was submitted, with the deed.
Okay.
When they did the split.
Thank you.
Now, by right, if they feel that's a little extreme, they do have the right to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and appeal that decision and allow it to be impervious.
That's the code. Is because it's changing. It needs to be updated. So, okay. So we need to determine on the east side what material we want to see, and per code, it cannot be chain link. Correct?
First 50 feet.
The first 50 feet. Well, that's not helpful when you have a large stretch like that. Okay, so
They're more than 50 feet back, aren't they?
Right.
So can we have a variance for that to have it match the rest of the property?
They can, yeah.
Because
Eric, when you say the first 50
Yeah, what do you-
feet,
From
so
what code
this
says.
must be, and then you're saying 50 feet that way?
Yep. But if they're using that as parking anyways, it's not going to be affected. So that would probably be your parking lot once you re-situate the building and put some parking spaces. That should be asphalt anyways.
Right now, the fence on the north doesn't run along this, it runs along the property line.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's an ODOT fence.
It's a new fence. We have called out.
There's an existing ODOT fence there, and we have a new fence called out there as well.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, so per the code, lay down area or outdoor storage has to be contained by a fence. So it may make sense, rather than putting it around the entire property, to contain it just to this area. I think what I would prefer to see is the black coated chain link around this with a landscaping buffer, primarily on the south and east sides, and then the southwest corner. Thoughts by the group on that? I'm thinking like what we did at the storage containers or storage garages out by like Miracle Field. I think that looks a lot better. And they had a really nice kind of concentrated landscaping on kind of the entrance areas. It thinned out a little bit, but provided a visual buffer. And then I think that just looks a lot better than.
So in lieu of having a solid fence along the the east side, you prefer, you're recommending have landscaping buffer here instead.
Correct.
Now that went to Board of Zoning Appeals for them to allow not to connect it.
What do you mean not?
Yeah.
So they would have to go, if they're not having a fence in that area, they would have to go and.
No, I think there should still be a fence.
Still a
Yeah,
fence.
okay.
Just
I got
not
you.
Not a solid
following.
fence.
Yeah.
Not a solid fence.
No.
So are you requiring a solid fence anywhere, or is it just all?
No,
don't
I
know
think
yet.
just
We're
all.
trying to figure this out.
Right now, I think all chain link, because I think
Yeah.
transitioning is going to look piecemeal. I think, you know, I'm imagining if you put a white vinyl fence along this whole thing, it's going to look ridiculous. I think a wood fence also would be very obtrusive. So I just think that putting the black chain links provides the security, it provides the containment. It's not as much of a visual distraction. And then the landscaping provides better aesthetics. It's better for the environment, and it provides more of a dust barrier from outside, as well as then helps with water absorption. So in my opinion, that achieves what I would want to see achieved.
Currently, we have called out 6 foot high. Is there a higher requirement for this, or?
I don't see any need for a higher requirement because you know, coming off of 75, 15,
You can
going
see
around
it.
there, you're not going to hide. You're not hiding it.
Just want to make sure I was
Yeah.
clear on all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but there is actually not in the zoning code. There is a restriction on barbed wire and razor wire.
Correct.
So, if you're thinking 6 feet plus razor wire or something, that won't work. So more security might be an 8.
Yeah.
But that's totally your decision.
Yeah. I would say
So
minimum.
minimum 6 foot.
Correct.
Minimum 6 feet.
And you can go up to
required.
10.
All right. Any other discussion?
No, I think we beat this to death. So I'm good
Oh,
with
you're
the
a
motion.
newbie. This is nothing. You should see some of the projects we have to work through. All right.
One
With-
last question.
Yeah.
On the east side, you're saying landscape screening. You're not requiring a mound on that side, right?
No.
Okay, just
No.
double checking.
The only thing I would say to that point is as you work through the water detention movement, if there is a benefit to the mounding, then I would encourage mounding.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if it helps with flow, you know, creating a ditch along certain portions, anything like that.
And then, again, we need, just one of the point, we need to work with engineering about the grade here.
Yep.
For
Yeah, so I will
Bonding.
motion to approve application for site plan review SP-08-2024 filed by Michigan Sugar Company for a new gravel laydown site yard at 1343 Greenwood Street with the following conditions. And I have a lot of scratch here, so hopefully I will do it. Work with engineering for stormwater detention and photometric plan be submitted to HRPC. Those are kind of two that I just merged, so write them down as 2, Jacob. And then a minimum 6 foot black coated chain link fence around the entire laydown area with landscaping buffers along the east and south edges and southwest corner. And roadway and driveway to be paved within the parcel.
And the parking area for
And parking for employees.
employees.
Does that accurately represent our conversation?
Yeah.
Any significant concerns from the applicant on what those items were?
Not at this time.
Okay. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Was there any other discussion from the folks in the crowd? Yep, Mr. Wellick, come up. And the photo. I
While
see.
while Mr. Weller's coming up, and maybe I'm just being nerdy, can we have a separate condition about looking at the ponding?
The ponding,
About potential,
I thought we did.
that's part of the water detention.
I know, I just, when you look back, okay, that's fine.
Yes, go ahead.
Thought this occurred to me looking at this. Where's all the dirt going to we're digging out before we put stone in? Just a question.
They will have to remove it from site or use it to help with the detention.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, let me go up here a little bit. If you, this is always gonna be ODOT's fence.
Right.
Putting another fence next to ODOT, I think you should put a fence.
That's where it's going to go.
Yeah, that's what we,
That's where
yep.
it is. Yep.
Great idea. We like the way you think. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Klinger,
Aye.
Mayor Murin,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Tremblay,
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder.
Aye.
Seeing no other items on the agenda, this meeting of the April 11th City Planning Commission is adjourned.
Eric, if you need to set up a meeting about landscaping, just let us know.
I know, me
For the
too.
record, there's 3 people, maybe 4, that buzzed through silence. It's the police chief, the fire chief,